Okay. Let's see.
There we go.
I feel like games all the way up. Are we clockwise? Speak loud.
Yeah, that microphone also works.
Yeah. Okay. This microphone works as well. Okay, this may be better then. All right. So, I'm Jordan Qualls. I'm co-founder of Plan2Play. Sorry. And we're a startup located just down the road on Off Page Road, and we actually started kind of full-time efforts and operations January of this year. Kind of my goal today is to get anybody to, well, obviously, you know, presentation feedback is welcome, but also if anybody has any contacts with our core group of target customers right now, which is any company with more than 100 employees, preferably in the area or in North Carolina, although we will eventually want to start to expand to other states as well. As many of you know, in the beginning, customer acquisition is the hardest part. So let me start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I actually grew up in Cary, one of the few people who actually is from Cary. And growing up, I heard, you know, everywhere, everybody, you know, everything was about SaaS, right? SaaS was one of those mythical companies where everybody wanted to work there, and if you got a job there, that meant that you knew somebody who worked there, and somebody either retired or died because nobody left, right, on their own volition. And every company wants to attain that kind of mythical status, right? But unfortunately, it's very expensive to do so, to go the SaaS route, right? They built facilities, they had a bunch of perks, they built a school, they built Cary Academy to, you know, school the children of SaaS employees. So what my co-founder and I set out to do was to help companies do this for less money, less effort, less time, okay? So Plan2Play is a workplace engagement solution that uses technology to build great company culture by fostering meaningful connections between employees through real-world interactions. So essentially, long story short, build great company culture through real-world interactions. We found that the major problem that we're trying to tackle here is that HR and people managers are trying to form engaging workplace cultures, but inadequate social connections between coworkers standing in way. So what makes somebody want to stay working for a company? Obviously, is their personal connection with that company, but the majority of their personal connection is through personal connections with coworkers. 47% of millennials feel they don't have adequate social connections at work, and 60% of employees surveyed are more likely to stay at their job if they have more social connections at work, right? And it's obviously very expensive to replace an employee. That goes without saying. So what our solution is an app that allows coworkers to connect with each other, to do group activities with each other, inside and outside of work. So say you want to go, you know, hey, I'm going to Chipotle today for lunch. Instead of just asking around to the cubicles around me, I can actually send out a message through the app saying, hey, who wants to go to Chipotle for lunch? People get invited and connected who you may not have eaten lunch with before. The same applies to, you know, after work activities, going and playing tennis, going bowling. But the essence of the app is that employees, instead of managers and HR, can actually coordinate team building activities that better connect the employees with each other, forming these social connections that makes people more motivated to work and stay at their company. So basically, we're empowering employees to make meaningful connections at work. One of the major differences between our solution and other workplace engagement solutions like Kudos, for example, 15.5, a lot of solutions that rely on me sending a message to my coworker saying, hey, great job on that report that you did. The major difference between us and them is that we are actually connecting people on a personal level, right? If I get a great job from my boss, you know, okay, I get to keep my job. Maybe it makes me feel a little bit better, but at the end of the day, you know, how motivating is that? If I have a personal connection with somebody down the line, you know, 3, 4, 5 steps down the line at my company, and I turn in my report late, and I negatively affect that friend, you know, that's a bigger motivation for me. So basically what our app does is allows you to pick and, you know, what you want to do, when you want to do it, where you want to do it, and with whom you want to do it. You can connect with people directly through the app whom you already have on your contact list, and you can have the app connect you with people you don't already know. So, you know, you can have somebody who is in sales randomly connect with an IT person, or maybe the CFO of the company, or maybe the mailroom clerk, never to go bowling, let's say. And then, you know, when you go bowling, they make a connection and allows those connections to go not just between coworkers, but between departments as well. That allows the employees to kind of get a better holistic understanding of how their company works and how they affect their company and their coworkers as a whole. One of the ways that we motivate employees to actually go about doing this is a program by which their employer can reimburse them for their expenses. So say you use bowling as an example again, you want to go bowling. If you connect with somebody and ask a coworker to go bowling with you through this app, and you end up going bowling, you scan the receipt at the end of the night, and the employer will reimburse you for that bowling outing up to a certain monthly cap, let's say. On the employer end, whether it's a manager or whether it's HR, they can actually monitor the activities kind of in an aggregate sense. They don't see, you know, which employees are going where with whom at what time, but they do see that certain employees are engaged, certain employees aren't. They can also send out company-wide invites and create team building exercises through this app as well. But they also get to see which employees are actually kind of the superstars engaging with other employees, right? So which ones are creating these events, inviting people, and people are actually going to, right? So the next time you want to have a company picnic, why not ask these superstar, you know, influencer employees to organize it for you instead of just making it some sort of mandatory HR coordinated effort. Our cost structure is $3 per employee per month. We are primarily going after companies with more than 100 employees. Right now, we're trying to stick between 100 and 1,000 employees, because the sales cycle is shorter. You know, once you go above 1,000 employees, you start to hit enterprise level year or 2 year long sales cycles. Our competition, our most direct competition, include a couple of American companies, Random Coffee and Jam. Random Coffee is out of the Facebook accelerator out of the West Coast, and Jam is out of New York, also venture-backed, I believe. They both coordinate through email calendars mandatory meetings between employees to go get coffee for 30 minutes. And to us, that is, although that's a similar idea of connecting employees, it is not preferable, because basically you're setting up employees for blind dates and they go have coffee together and go to the top of it, right? With our app, they go and they connect by doing an activity, right? There's no pressure to do anything, get to know anybody other than just, hey, let's go play golf. Play2 is much more of a direct competitor. They only do physical activities. They don't do like going lunch outing, stuff like that. They do sports only, but everything else is pretty much the same with them. They're out of India. They started around the same time we did. They already have Adidas, WeWork, Eli Lilly, and Accenture as customers in India. But so far they haven't expanded outside India, but we do believe that that is kind of a proof of concept that these big companies are willing to buy into this for India. So at the end of the day, yes, that is it. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Fantastic. Gordon. Is this working out? Okay, great. Questions, input, ideation, let's let them have it. 1 million cup style. Okay, young man. Tell us who you are and what's your question.
Bob Consulate. Couple of things come to mind. One, how does this help control expenses? Because like if I decide to go bowling,
Right.
I mean, is there a stipend is that discussed up front?
There is a monthly cap. So some employers have decided on $20, $25, some as high as $50 a month per employee. Obviously, not every employee is going to take advantage of it, but there is that kind of use it or lose it scenario where at the end of the month, if you haven't used your $20 stipend, then you start all over again.
Okay, it doesn't get banked or anything like that. Okay, fair enough. And then the other thing that struck me, potential, I'm not saying this would happen, but does this actually create more politicking inside the company? For example, if the CFO happens to be doing this activity and all of a sudden these people are invited, there's going to be a bum rush of everybody who wants the CFO's ear.
Right.
That's where the money is, right?
Yeah.
Or some other decision maker inside the company. So how are you helping alleviate, or I should say maybe nip that in the bud as part of how you're structured?
Well, it's first come, first served. So you're right. If they were sending out invites and they were choosing who gets to go and who doesn't, that there would be some politicking involved there. When you get which we try to get the senior level people at the company to actually try to coordinate randomly through the app, which is kind of the major capability of the app, where you say, hey, I want to go play golf, I need 3 other people. And then the app goes and sends out invites to anybody in the company who's interested in playing golf, and they get a pop-up notification on their phone, and it's first come, first served. So that's how basically we avoid the politicking of it, because, or at least the politicking of choosing which people get to be with the CFO, for example, on that golfing outing, because it's first come, first served. If your finger's quick enough, then you get to play golf with the CFO. And so more or less it's random. You don't have any favoritism toward anybody over anybody else. It's just as likely to be the mailroom clerk who's going and playing with the CFO than the CEO, for example.
Hi, I'm Tracy with Teams and Company. Quick question, you mentioned that you're working with Eli Lilly. So do you have any employee data on how they're enjoying the app? And the reason I ask is with all of these apps, there's folks who might want to connect with their coworkers. There's other folks who might feel like this is now an added pressure where the company's tracking how much time I spend with my coworkers outside of work, right? And so is there any kind of metrics or feedbacks you have from employees so far saying, we like this, or wow, I just feel like this is one more thing I need to do?
So, clarification, first of all, sorry, I may have been speaking too quickly, but when I mentioned Eli Lilly and Accenture, for example, those are companies whose Indian branches have decided to use one of our main competitors, Play2. Right now, we are starting our pilot program toward the end of this month with the first 5 companies we have signed up. So we don't have any usage feedback as of yet. We do have preliminary feedback, just speaking with the employees, asking them, kind of doing some customer discovery beyond the employers, but going to the employees themselves and saying, hey, would you use this? And one of the major concerns we got was privacy concerns. So we have built that into the product where the employer can see that this person, for example, is a power user, but they can't see that this person organizes tennis matches at 7 p.m. these days, right? For example, one of the major concerns, kind of jokingly, but kind of not, amongst employees was, hey, if I play hooky from work, is my employer going to know? Are they going to track my location and the time I was doing this activity? And the answer is no. That information stays with us. We don't communicate that to the employers. Mostly the kind of the raw, or not the raw data, the opposite, the kind of the aggregated information that's useful. So we try to strike a balance between the privacy concerns, and then as far as motivation, that was the biggest biggest feedback we got. Eventually led us to this kind of stipend system, because a lot of people responded saying, I have a family, I'm tired at the end of the day, I want to go home, and after working out various permutations, we eventually came to the stipend scenario, and then the reactions were, well, if my employer's going to pay part of my bill to go play golf on Saturday, maybe I'll invite a coworker. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Jordan, I'm not sure if this follows your Plan2Play theme, but a lot of employers, what you're after here is you're trying to get employers to keep people longer and build a culture, right?
Correct.
And many employers these days find part of their mission, part of their social mission, if you will, is to help volunteer efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Habitat for Humanity, or it's the food network, food banks, and that kind of thing, and getting people to get involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're giving people time off. We'll give you 3 days a week, 3 days a year, or a week a year, whatever it may be, paid time off to get involved in those activities. I'm not sure it follows the Plan2Play, because it sounds like this is more, your conversation at least is around more of a social interaction of those people.
Right.
But if I can build a better culture in my company to keep people around, give them time off, to do volunteer efforts and do those kinds of things, this might be a good medium for those kinds of organizations, those kinds of activities to be built and turn into stronger activities within the company.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because as things have moved forward and we've kind of iterated based off of customer and employee feedback, that is one of the things that we've gotten, that we got really early on, and we may eventually decide to change the name, because the name is a little misleading because of that. But yes, we have implemented within the app, there are kind of 3 different points systems that were categories of points within the system that you can accumulate as an employee. Actually, the second company that joined our pilot program wanted that, and so we added that. And so there's physical activity points, there's team building points, and then there's community service points. And
That's a great point, and pardon that pun there, sorry about that. So guess what, I had the thought as a follow-up to your question here, what is play? I mean, play sounds like fun, right? It sounds like something enjoyable. So
right.
If you're involved in a social responsibility or social impact activity as a volunteer at a nonprofit, that's still enjoyable. That's still fun. That's still kind of, so anyway, just a follow-up call. And you had a quick question, Oz? We've got time for about 3 or 4 more minutes of questions, so think them up.
I'm not sure if you can bring up the problem slide again. I'm trying to connect the dots there again. Oz Merchant, Ballistic. And what I'm curious is, at what point does it become a problem? Meaning, like a 100-person company, I have channels like Slack and other tools to connect. Maybe I've built out my own groups on that. What point does it become a problem to solve this matter versus just a lot of the existing technology that may be in place?
So the The problem is I guess there's two elements to that problem. One is just the number of people question, and there is a lot of anthropological research. Malcolm Gladwell made it very kind of popularized it in his Tipping Point book, I believe. He called it the rule of 150, but the anthropological research shows that basically when you exceed 100 people in an organization or in a community, and then approach 150 and then go beyond that, you start to see breakdowns within that community, right? Whereas a community of 80 people operated as one unit. Once you exceed 100 and then 150, that unit breaks down into smaller units, and there's really nothing you can do to get them to become a big unit again. And so the idea here is to not get everybody back into one unit, but to bridge connections between the kind of the units that have splintered within a large organization. So that's the number question. The second question is to using other technologies. It is true that there are a lot of technologies out there, like Slack, that can connect employees for the purposes of doing work together, but our major concern is with the personal connections, the personal social connections between those people. And while Slack is great for communicating, your work amongst each other, it's not great for actually forming real human connections with somebody else. And that's where we wanted to get people in person doing group activities together.
Thank you, Jordan. We have time for one more question. Okay, Mark.
The question cannot be about where the location is.
I'm about to say the same thing. I'm Mark Debner. I'm founder and chairman of Kremlin Institute, which collects, refurbishes, and awards computers to kids who can't afford them. We've given away over 36,000 computers after it started in my basement with 42 computers 16 years ago. What I was thinking in looking at this is we have all kinds of team building work days that companies send in their employees to work together. They have a great time. We have larger geekathons where 100 or 200 employees of a company can get together. What if you had a little subsidiary of what you're doing that could just be for nonprofit and charitable work and charitable help? If you could find in an area charitable opportunities and then work through your system and have to pay you to do it, to play within charities, that might be a really great thing that would not only help the people you're trying to help here, but also help the whole community as well.
Yeah, that is a great idea, and we started to reach out to some of the bigger charitable organizations, and ran into a bit of a brick wall, where, and maybe your organization is a great example of an organization that might actually work with us, but some of the bigger organizations, Special Olympics in North Carolina, not to point anybody out specifically, but we communicated with them, and they said, actually, we don't, like, their volunteer coordination system is very complex, and they can't deal with people who just come to them and say, hey, we want to volunteer on Saturday. And so we kind of got a lot of that pushback in the beginning. We're more than open to working with any nonprofit or charitable organizations that want to put their activities on the app, so that employees of these companies can actually specifically say, hey, there's this opportunity to go volunteer this Saturday. I want to go. Does anybody else want to go with me? We'd love to connect people that way. So far, we've just kind of run into, as I said, some brick walls with some of the traditional charitable organizations that these large companies tend to work with.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jordan. Let's give him a good big round of applause. Now, part of what this community is about is helping each other, right? This is a forward or outward-facing community. It's not about networking. Hi, here's my business card. What can you do for me? This is about, hello, tell me a little bit about you. I want to get to know about you and what you're doing. So to the extent that we can actually genuinely, authentically focus our energies toward me learning about you and me learning about what you're striving to do, what Jordan's trying to do, and what these folks at PAX V, did I say it correctly?
You did.
Are doing. So it takes some initiative. Reach out to them. If something resonated with you, if you think, well, I know someone that has, that's a part of a company that has 100 or more employees, they might be interested in this, but you want to know a little bit more. You want to kind of, before you make that introduction, then reach out to Jordan. Are you willing to share your contact information with folks here?
Yes.
How about that? See, no one is shy here. So reach out to them, engage. Now how cool would it be if all of us had the mindset of helping each other, and you had the mindset of helping me? Somehow that circle works really well, much better than the circle of I'm pitching to you. Well, this is a presentation. It was awesome. I think you did a great job. And by the way, some of the changes you made to your presentation today were like putting a turbo on it. I mean, you did a great job. So again, thank you very much for that. We have just a minute or so. We're actually a minute or so past time. One big request, please. I know it's a journey for many of you, and traffic is always out there. Do what you can to try to be here so we can start on time. We're going to try to start these meetings at 9 o'clock, end them at 10 o'clock, and then allow you some time to communicate, connect afterwards. But any other community announcements for the group in general? Anyone? Yes, please, Randy. Randy Shaw.
Hello, everybody. Randy Shaw from GTI, Global Training Initiative, NC State. Hopefully, we'll be there soon for laying cups. We have openings for about 10 more mentors that would help to serve international students, mainly from Europe and China right now, all over the place actually. But if you're interested in helping someone, helping a student, getting together with them once or twice per month, we have about 7 in here right now that I counted that are part of the program. If you're interested at all, I've got business cards. I brought them. I brought them, yeah. And just talk to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. And Rick Bain also volunteers in that, don't you?
Try to.
Yeah, try to. So these guys are mentors. And there's a lot of really good stuff going on in this community. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but we hear it all of the time, how you're making connections outside of this group, you're helping each other without any forethought of what's in it for you. And truly, that's what the community is all about. This is a place where you can be transparent, you can be real. It's okay not to be completely buttoned up. This is where you get, you get the thing together. You get the head and the backside wired together and then go out. So it's a safe zone for that. Thank you all for being here. Next week and through the end of the year, we'll continue on our same schedule. Look for, if you're not part of the meetup, please join that. That's just an additional way we can communicate to you the meeting locations. Also, I think most of you are already registered on the 1 Million Cups website. If not, 1millioncups.com/RTP. You'll get an email notification there. And incidentally, technology, there's an app called the 1 Million Cups app that you can download to your phone. When you come to this meeting, you can actually check in. And then if you're checked in on that app, afterwards, if you wish, you can give some feedback to the presenters that goes directly to them. It's not filtered at all. So a lot of good stuff. Thank you for being part of it. We appreciate everyone being here today. Thanks. Have a great week.